Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. Let's discuss the Yankees 2025 opening day roster. So, Yankees coming off of a World Series appearance in 2024, losing in very disappointing fashion to the Los Angeles Dodgers in 5 games. But what was overall a successful season for the Yankees, one in which they reached the World Series for the first time since 2009. And there's been a lot of changes that, we've discussed throughout the offseason leading into this campaign. And obviously, the big thing is the fact that Juan Soto is no longer a New York Yankee. And uh, the question was, how would the Yankees replace him? And I think as much as we can discuss and talk about how um, they've tried to fill, the team and make it a little bit more whole. And I think it's probably better defensively than it was last season, which isn't saying much. But that is a big, big, big hole to fill in the lineup. There's just no question about it. And I don't think you're going to be able to. Like, to be honest, I don't think you're going to be able to replicate the team statistics for what Soto brought. But I think that a couple of things that are working in the Yankees' favor is the fact that um, the American League as a whole is not as great as it's been in years past. The National League to me seems a lot stronger. And again, like, does it mean it's going to play out that way? Not necessarily. As far as the American League East is specifically concerned, um, it should be a competitive division in terms of 1 through 5. Like, you stack up whoever you want to consider the worst team in the division. I guess on paper, I suppose it comes down to either Tampa Bay or Toronto. Doesn't mean it's going to be that way, but that is definitely better than most last place teams in the division, right? So there's definitely some depth to it. Um, I think that you have to say that Baltimore and Boston are the probably two biggest competitors, and the Red Sox bringing in Alex Bregman as well as Garrett Crochet really solidified them um, in a different way than we've seen in the last few seasons. Baltimore, of course, is a team that is still on the rise, a young team that has a really good lineup, but has a lot of pitching issues, a lot of injuries. And so what they're going to provide is a little bit of an unknown. So the Yankees, I'll say right now that whether they win the division or not, it would still be, if they miss the playoffs, that's still a disappointment. This should be a team that, and we're going to discuss kind of right away the injuries the Yankees are dealing with, because that's a major storyline. No way around it. Uh, Yankees, to me, on opening day, leading into opening day, this is a team that is more than capable of making the playoffs. Before the injuries, I probably would have said that this is a team that really I would predict to win the division. However, let's discuss these significant injuries that the Yankees are dealing with. And the Yankees um, have recently had a slew of transactions of players placed on the injured list. Um, and so let's talk about it. Gerrit Cole being the first person placed on the IL, 60-day IL, and he's getting Tommy John surgery. So out for the season. He'll be out probably for a little bit next year too, maybe the first few months. So that's a major, major loss. That's to not have him, who's the ace of the staff, um, hurts a lot. And what was supposed to be a strength of this team, that depth is really being tested, right? Because going in, and that's just part of it, right? Gerrit Cole's just, there's another big one too. And that's Louis Seal. 60-day IL for him, right lat strain. Now, the expectation is that he will be back this season, but probably not until middle of the season at best, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him until maybe even July in a best case scenario. That's just how these things go. So you had those two. Of course, Max Fried um, was signed, formerly of the Atlanta Braves, Carlos Rodon, and Clark Schmidt. And Clark Schmidt as well, he's on the 15-day IL with right rotator cuff tendonitis. Now, with him, you got to believe that he'll be back pretty soon. If all goes well and nothing changes, I think the expectation for him is to be back some point in April. But still, that's another one. So Marcus Stroman, who really was kind of on the outs, now he kind of slots in currently is number 3 in the rotation. And then what that also means is you have Will Warren, who is one of the top Yankee prospects. He he's probably around like number 5 or so in most places you look. And Will Warren was not very good last year at the major league level. However, really did show a lot early in spring. Wasn't as great later in spring. And I'm a little bit skeptical. Like, I don't think this is not going to do the Louis Seal situation last year. That'd be amazing if it was. And I think him being in the rotation makes all the sense in the world based on the options. Like, there's upside with Will Warren. There is strikeout ability. So, wanted to do well. It's got to go a lot better than it did last year, but this is a golden opportunity for him to maybe make a name for himself and solidify him in the rotation. And then a real sort of surprise, a player that used to have a lot of success with Cleveland, and then he was traded to the Mets in the Francisco Lindor trade, is Carlos Carrasco. He is in essence the fifth man of this rotation as we speak. Um, and he will start anywhere from games 5 through 7. So the first 4 pitchers in this rotation to start the season is Carlos Rodon, opening day. And the reason why that is why it's him over Max Fried is just because the way things have lined up. When Cole got hurt, like it's not that doesn't mean that Rodon is considered the ace. I would consider that to be Fried, but it doesn't even really matter, right? They are clearly 1 and 2, both of them, the southpaws. They are headline in this rotation, but it's Rodon that does get the opening day nod. Then you have Fried scheduled for game 2, Stroman for game 3, and Will Warren for game 4. And then they might go back to Rodon for game 5. We're not sure when Fried gets his second start. The point is that Carrasco will get a start shortly thereafter. And it's tough to say, right? In a way, um, Will Warren has options, and so he could be the one that does get bumped out when Clark Schmidt comes back. Um, it's kind of unfortunate the way that works, right? And look, I think that if Will Warren really does very well, I'd like to believe that they'll cut bait with Carlos Carrasco, but that's something to look at again when Schmidt returns. But that's how your rotation looks right now. Not ideal. Um, it's not completely horrendous, but you need Marcus Stroman to kind of do what he did in the beginning of last season, where again, he was never dominant. He was never getting strikeouts, but he was putting up pretty good, consistent performances where he was getting you about 5 innings and, maybe giving up a couple of runs and keeping you in ball games. So it's not what you want. Not the biggest Stroman fan, but you're going to need him with Warren. Again, it's that untapped sort of upside that you're hoping that he can show. And then Carlos Carrasco, who's definitely at the end of the line. I almost, when they made that minor league signing, the only reason I thought it was notable is just because Carlos Carrasco was a pitcher that did have a lot of success in this league. The Yankees have faced him a good bunch in the postseason, so there's that. But I just, in terms of his ability these days, it was limited, but he was pretty solid in spring. So we'll see. So that's kind of the rotation. And I guess with that, let's go bullpen. And with that, let's discuss some of the injuries as well. Um, so for this rotation, for the bullpen, should be one of the strengths of the team, but not to say that there haven't been a lot of injuries as well that they have to deal with. Um, and I think that Matt Blake and company, they have really just been able to find ways to get the most out of players that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and for that they deserve a lot of credit. Let's first talk about the injuries in the pen currently. And so Jonathan Loaisiga is kind of at the top of that list. This was not unexpected. It's right elbow surgery recovery for Jonathan Loaisiga. And, for him, he is going to be someone that is relied upon as a high leverage reliever. Maybe not right away. Maybe they'll ease him in. And with Loaisiga, I feel like maybe June. Like I like to kind of when I see these injuries, it really it's a very conservative approach that they tend to take, and sometimes there's setbacks. So I think you really have to because look, is there a world where Loaiza Kudak in May? Sure, but I'd be leery of that. So Loaisiga is on the shelf for now, but will return. And someone that was out for essentially all of last season. It was about a year ago, a little less than a year ago that he got hurt. As well, on the injury front in the pen, which really, again, it's not that much. You have Ian Hamilton, who's currently on the 15-day IL, and this is retroactive to March 24th, which is 3 days ago as I'm recording this. So, he'll be up, I think, for the first 2 weeks. I don't, again, anticipate him being out long. Hamilton should be back pretty soon. And when he is back, he will certainly be someone that you'll see, I think, a lot in, a sixth or seventh inning type of role, certainly. As well, you also have Scott Efros, who just continues to get hurt. He has a left hamstring strain. Uh, and I just think that with him, it's no guarantee that he's necessarily in the pen, although in looking at the names in the current mix, certainly I think Efros has a chance to be involved this season, whereas last year he kind of was an odd man out when he did return. So Efros is someone that I'm curious to see, although the shine has kind of worn off from a couple of years ago. It just has. So it's very much an unknown, but he's someone that just continues to get hurt, unfortunately. As well, you have Clayton Beater, who's on the 15-day right shoulder impingement. Not really sure his timeline exactly, um, but he's out. And, someone that is kind of highly thought of. I think when he is healthy, he will probably be someone to hear from in the bullpen. And then JT Brubaker, who is a left rib fracture. I think he qualifies more as a starter or at the very least, a multi-inning long relief guy. But again, he's been someone that's dealt with injuries as well. So with him, I can't really give much of an approximation as far as how that'll go. And then someone that, as I'm recording this, the transaction hasn't been made, which I don't know why. I'm kind of confused by it, honestly, is Jake Cousins. Jake Cousins is going to, even though as of right now, like on the Yankee official, roster and website, they don't have that transaction yet. I think after pretty soon after I record this, it'll come down that Jay Cousins is going on the IL. I don't know if it's a 15-day sort of situation or a 60. Hoping it's 15, but Jay Cousins, who did not pitch at all in spring, he will be out as well. So where that leaves you with the pen, we'll start at the top. Devin Williams is going to close for the Yankees, and ironically, he'll be facing his former Milwaukee Brewer team in the first series of the year. Just weird how that works. But, with Devin Williams, he's been one of the best closers in the league, the last few years. The one bit of concern I have, again, that Pete Alonso home run, maybe it's not so relevant in the regular season, but, if the Yankees do make postseason, that was a colossal meltdown. There's just no way around it. That was bad, by Devin Williams, but again, it was just a one-off, right? It's not you can't just, say, okay, like, that's just who he is. Devin Williams has really been one of the most dominant relievers in baseball for the last 4 or 5 seasons, and had a great combination, him and Josh Hader when Hader was still in Milwaukee, and then once he was gone, Williams took over as closer, so he's the definite closer, and that leaves you with Luke Weaver as basically number 2, which if he can do anything like he did, in the playoffs last year, that would be just great, right? So that is some 1-2 punch potentially. But you want to see it more from Luke Weaver, to be fair. Devin Williams has built up enough of a resume where you know what you're getting. But Luke Weaver, to be fair, I am confident in him. I think that this is the role that he always needed to have. He was a failed starter, no way around it, and he has really found himself in the bullpen. So there's Luke Weaver. Going from there, I guess we can next sort of maybe discuss Fernando Cruz, who was acquired from the Cincinnati Reds. And with him, he is a hard throwing reliever who did have some struggles in spring, but has strikeout stuff, but he needs to harness it. There's a lot of walks to him and hit by pitches and stuff. So a little skeptical. He's kind of a wild card right now. I think that at first they're going to trust him to be a high leverage reliever, but we'll see what happens. You have Mark Leiter Jr. I think he'll, in the early going with the injuries, he may factor in on more of the high leverage end. And I think a lot of struggles with him in the regular season with the Yankees last year, but really did show out in a major way positively. Let me be major way strong, but in the postseason, I like what I saw from him. So there's still hope for Mark Leiter Jr. as far as I'm concerned. Now let's discuss some of the lefties. Tim Hill is back, and I think that's a good thing. He will be a left on left guy, probably the top lefty in the pen. and someone that you'll definitely see, I think, in many different situations, really ranging from the sixth through the eighth, honestly, with Tim Hill. And then Ryan Yarbrough a few days ago was signed. The former Tampa Bay Ray, that's where Yankee fans would know him most. Was recently with the Toronto Blue Jays, but Yarbrough is kind of a Swiss Army knife in that pen. He is a guy that will give you multiple innings, and I not necessarily in a mop up role. Yes, he could be a guy that does come in after a starter maybe messes up early. Sure, Yarbrough could come in, but I think they'll probably have him in there um, in the middle of the game in a close game. So Yarbrough, that's a pretty legitimate, fairly legitimate move by the Yankees. And the other lefty in the pen is Brent Hedrick, who was with the Minnesota Twins. Look, it's a third lefty in there. Don't know what to expect from him, to be honest. Not someone that will necessarily like. Look, I'd be surprised if he lasts on the roster too long, but crazier things have happened. And then rounding out the bullpen is right-hander Yoendris Gomez, who is out of minor league options, which I think is part of the reason why I made the team. However, honestly, in the few short times that he's been with the big club, have been pretty impressed by him. I think he's got an arm. I think there's potential there. So Gomez will be someone that for sure will be low leverage, but that rounds out the pitching. And I think when healthy, even without Cole, but you get Heel back at some point, the pitching could be a strong suit for this Yankee team. Now let's discuss the offense. And the big injury is Giancarlo Stanton, who is on the 10-day IL with right and left elbow. Um, I'm not sure if it's considered soreness or it's bad. It doesn't sound great. However, it just came out that he has been swinging a bat. No timetable, but apparently he's responded well to it. So we will see. Giancarlo Stanton is a massive part of this team. However, if you can just get to the postseason, which is a big question mark, especially without Stanton for potentially a large part of the season, Stanton is so money in the playoffs that you just need to get him there. That's the key. So Stanton out. That is massive for this lineup in a very, very bad way. Right. So when you think about the injuries, it's Gerrit Cole and John Carlos Stanton are the really, really big ones. And these are two of the longest tenured Yankees and two of the really most popular players on the team. So Stanton's out. Where that leaves you, and let's just kind of we'll quickly go through the lineup and just the bench real quick. So the opening day lineup, Austin Wells is actually leading off. I like this Yankee lineup versus righties. I still have concerns, very much so against lefties. I think the Yankees might struggle against left-handed pitching again. They did last year, regardless of the fact that Soto's got. I mean, nothing to do with that even, though the construction of this team, the Yankees really need some right-handed bats, which is a departure from seasons gone by where the Yankees were too right-handed heavy. Now it's kind of gone the other way, and I think that they need to switch that up. But against righties, I think it could be a pretty formidable lineup and pretty deep. Wells leading off, Judge back to number 2, where he had been pre-Soto. Cody Bellinger batting third, and he's gonna be playing mostly center field. I'm very excited about what Cody Bellinger can do. He is someone that I'm pretty optimistic on, and it's gonna be a very important part of the lineup. Paul Goldschmidt batting cleanup. He's going to be your first baseman. I'm a little bit skeptical on Goldschmidt. I hope he proved me wrong. He's had an amazing career, but for this is where I wish you had Stanton and Goldschmidt could be more like batting sixth. But this is where you are at Goldschmidt. Jazz Chisholm Jr. batting fifth. He's playing second base this season with the Yankees, and that should work better than third. Not that he was horrible at third, but he's more used to second base. We'll see how that goes. I still remain a little bit unsure about him defensively, but we'll see. Batting six is going to be Jason Dominguez, who is going to be in left field, and that's going to be a major question mark. How is he going to do in left field? Again, a little bit concerned as to that, especially Yankee Stadium. Hopefully, his back can make up for that. He is a really, really huge wild card in this team. He could either really be someone that you see maybe eventually bat leadoff, honestly, or he could be sent down. It could really go either, one of two ways there. Batting seventh is going to be the shortstop, Anthony Volpe, which I like him more down that bottom three part of the lineup. I don't think that him as a leadoff hitter, maybe at some point, in the future, but for now, I think he's just keep him down there. I like that speed. Think about that. You have Chisholm, Dominguez, Volpe, three in a row. That's a lot of speed the Yankees need. Batting eighth is going to be the DH Ben Rice. And again, that's he has a lot of power. There's potential there. Not ideal, right? Let's be honest. It's not Giancarlo Stanton, but Ben Rice, who is also going to be catching, playing a little bit of first base, a little bit of versatility there with Ben Rice. And against righties, he'll certainly be in the lineup for now. And then batting ninth, the third baseman is Waldo Cabrera. So yet again, back-to-back years where due to injuries, and DJ LeMahieu being one of them, and really for me, I've lost so much hope in DJ LeMahieu. There is none for me. LeMahieu's on the 10-day with a left calf strain. The guy gets hurt all the time, unfortunately, these days. His body is just broken down. So as Waldo Cabrera versus righties is the third baseman. We know that Oswaldo can kind of move all around the field. Oswaldo Cabrera is definitely a valuable player to have on your team. And I hope that he can somehow take this, opportunity and run with it. That'd really be nice. And that leaves you with a bench of, very surprisingly, a great story. JC Escara is basically your backup catcher. He's a lefty, pretty good offensively, actually. Had a real good spring training. An amazing story where he was going to consider retiring. Was with the Orioles organization originally, then played independent ball, and was in the Yankees organization last year and makes the team. So Yankees have basically three left-handed catchers in Wells, Escara, and Rice. So in other words, that they're going to be those guys are going to be facing lefties. So we're going to see how they do in those situations. As well, you have Oswald Peraza, who's out of minor league options, and so that is part of the reason why I think he made it. He didn't have a great spring. I don't know if he's going to be on the team that much longer. He probably profiles as your backup shortstop behind Volpe at this point. But yeah, again, sort of my confidence in Peraza has kind of waned a bit, but we'll see. He is on the opening day roster. And then also Pablo Reyes makes the team. He was a minor league invite, spring training invite. Recently, you'd remember him mostly with the Boston Red Sox. Was with Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. Reyes is a right-handed bat, did well in the spring, can move around the field as well. And you might see him, I think, at third base against lefties. That would be my guess. And Oswaldo would sit in those situations. So Pablo Reyes is going to be someone that plays against lefties for sure. And Peraza potentially as well. It's hard to say. And then Trent Grisham. Trent Grisham back again, who actually showed a good amount of pop in spring. He's someone that might weirdly, again, it depends on Dominguez because Grisham would play center and Bellinger moved to left. So Grisham is someone that isn't too far away from playing more than he did last year. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that pretty much rounds out your 2025 Yankees opening day roster. A ton of injuries, no Juan Soto, definitely a different looking team than what we saw last season. And the Yankees are going to kind of have to weather the storm early on because they will have players likely returning and significant pieces of that. But they're going to have to kind of just stay in the mix. And if they can really somehow come out of the first 2 months with a strong record, that could really bode well for them throughout the course of the season. So we'll see what happens. I do think that this is a playoff team. And I think that there'll be a fight for the AL East that they should be involved in, likely with the Red Sox and Orioles, I would think. But another season underway. It feels like it just ended with that 2024 World Series against the Dodgers. But this is the 2025 New York Yankees opening day roster.